Imagine you are sitting in a quiet room, scrolling through your phone. There are no tanks outside your window. No sirens are wailing. No foreign nation has officially declared war on your country. Yet, at this very moment, you are standing directly on the front lines of a global battlefield. In this conflict, the territory being fought over isn't land, oil, or physical resources. The territory is the inside of your head, your attention, your emotional state, your perception of reality. Welcome to the era of cognitive warfare, the systematic battle for human sanity. For generations, humanity understood conflict through 5 physical domains: land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace. But today, military strategists and global defense institutions, including analysts at NATO, have identified a 6th domain of war: the human mind. The objective here is not to capture capital cities or destroy physical infrastructure. It is to quietly, invisibly, alter how entire populations process information and make daily choices. It is a highly coordinated psychological strategy designed to dismantle public trust from within. To understand how this operates without physical weapons, we have to look at the hard science of your brain. Your mind operates essentially as an efficient processing engine. Every day, it allocates a limited amount of mental energy to analyze data, solve problems, and evaluate context objectively. This baseline capacity is known as your cognitive load. When you are calm, relaxed, and focused, your logical defenses are high. Your brain can easily identify false claims and question strange narratives. But modern digital environments exploit a critical vulnerability in this biological system. Experts refer to it as cognitive overload, driven by chronic, relentless doom scrolling. Today, an ordinary citizen is exposed to more data in a single 24-hour period than an average person in the pre-industrial world encountered across an entire lifetime. We live in a non-stop, exhausting torrent of breaking news notifications, viral clips, highly polarized debates, and conflicting statistics. This overwhelming digital climate is the exact environment required for psychological operations to succeed. When your mind is continuously flooded with high-stress information, your limited mental energy runs out. You enter a state of severe mental fatigue, and an exhausted brain cannot perform critical thinking. When you are cognitively depleted, your brain stops looking at objective data or historical context. Instead, it defaults to its most primitive survival mechanism: raw, unchecked emotion. The architects of coordinated influence operations understand this biological vulnerability perfectly. They rarely try to convince you with complex, balanced arguments. Instead, they deploy highly tailored narratives designed to spark immediate, intense negative emotions like outrage, fear, or moral disgust. In psychological terms, this strategy bypasses your rational mind and directly triggers your confirmation bias and ancient tribal instincts. Human beings evolved to live in small, tightly knit groups, where survival depended entirely on cooperating with the tribe and fearing the outsider. Modern information networks use advanced technology to artificially awaken these deep-seated tribal fears. Consider what happens during a significant domestic event, whether it is an economic shift, a controversial local protest, or an election season. Research from cybersecurity agencies shows that coordinated influence networks and automated bot swarms rarely create new arguments from scratch. Instead, they scan the digital landscape to find the most extreme, polarizing voices already talking within your community. Then, they amplify those voices to millions of screens. Picture a teenager sitting alone in a bedroom in Ohio, scrolling through a video feed at 2 a.m. The screen illuminates the dark room as he watches short, emotionally charged clips about a local protest. He reads angry comments written by total strangers, completely unaware that a significant percentage of those accounts are automated software. Slowly, his perception of his own country is being reshaped in real time. He isn't being fed facts. He is being fed a highly specific, curated version of reality. If a user leans slightly toward one side of a political issue, the digital ecosystem floods their feed with content that makes the opposing group look intentionally malicious. If another user leans the opposite way, the system does the exact same thing to them. This is how digital echo chambers are systematically built. The goal is to make nuanced, balanced public conversation completely impossible. Over time, citizens stop viewing political opponents as neighbors with different ideas. Instead, they start viewing them as existential threats to their survival. This brings us to the core strategic objective of this hidden psychological warfare: a foreign adversary or a domestic group seeking power. does not need to deploy physical force to destabilize a nation. If you can convince the citizens of a democratic society to deeply hate and fear each other, the country will eventually paralyze itself from within. Every modern, free society relies on a concept known as systemic trust. For a democracy to function, there must be a baseline of shared truth. Citizens must maintain a reasonable level of trust in their legal systems, scientific consensus, voting processes, and journalism. Coordinated psychological strategies target this very foundation. By seeding a relentless stream of deepfake videos, hyperpartisan viral hashtags, and conflicting conspiracy theories, they induce a state of radical skepticism. In this state of total confusion, people do not just stop believing the official narrative. They stop believing that objective truth even exists. They adopt a worldview where everyone is assumed to be lying. Every institution is entirely corrupt, and every major event is a hidden conspiracy. Once an audience reaches this level of chronic cynicism, the unwritten social contract that keeps a society together begins to dissolve. The population fractures into hostile, isolated digital factions. People withdraw from constructive civic life and retreat into defensive anger. The nation becomes internally fragile, deeply distracted, and fundamentally incapable of uniting to face real, physical global challenges. But how do these sophisticated operations manage to gain direct access to your mind? They do not need to infiltrate secure government computers. They use the very infrastructure we willingly carry in our pockets every day: social media networks and their highly optimized algorithms. To understand this connection, we must look at the economic model of the digital attention economy. The mathematical goal of any social media platform is engagement maximization. The software wants to keep your eyes glued to the glass screen for as many minutes as possible, so it can serve you advertisements. Your personal attention is literally the product being harvested. Dozens of behavioral studies have proven that human attention reacts far more strongly to content that triggers high-arousal negative emotions, such as moral outrage, anxiety, and fear, than to content that makes us feel safe, analytical, or calm. The digital ecosystem naturally promotes sensationalism and conflict because conflict is highly profitable for the platform. This is where the financial motivation of tech companies accidentally aligns with the tactical goals of psychological warfare. An organized influence operation doesn't need to fight against the platform's rules. It simply rides the algorithm like a wave. They produce highly polarizing, provocative content, and the platform's code pushes it to millions of users for free, simply because it generates massive engagement. Your smartphone is effectively transformed into a direct delivery mechanism for psychological manipulation. To understand the unique danger of this modern reality, we must contrast it with the traditional propaganda of the 20th century. During the World Wars and the Cold War, state-sponsored propaganda was relatively easy to spot. It was centralized, loud, and nationalistic, delivered through official state television, radio, or printed pamphlets. When you encountered it, your psychological defense systems immediately went up because the source was obvious. Modern psychological warfare, however, is almost entirely decentralized and invisible. It does not look like official propaganda. Instead, it looks like a simple meme shared by a regular user on a public forum. It looks like a short, heated video from an independent content creator on your feed. It looks like an emotional discussion inside a group for local parents. Because the source appears to be a regular citizen just like you, your psychological guard is dropped. You absorb the narrative without ever realizing that the original talking point may have been intentionally seeded by an artificial intelligence network designed to create domestic division. This modern method is highly scalable, extremely cheap, and incredibly difficult to trace compared to traditional military hardware. Manufacturing a single advanced fighter jet requires tens of millions of dollars and years of complex engineering. For a tiny fraction of that cost, an organized influence network can run an AI-driven operation that targets the minds of an entire generation, altering their values, their voting behavior, and their overall mental stability over the course of a decade. The deepest tragedy of this dynamic is that it actively turns our finest human strengths against us. Human beings are fundamentally empathetic, social, and cooperative creatures. We naturally care about fairness, justice, and the well-being of our communities. But when these beautiful traits are fed into a digital machine optimized for conflict, our empathy is twisted into hatred for the perceived outgroup, and our desire for justice is weaponized into social destruction. The physical threats of our modern era are easily visible on our screens. We see them in changing borders, naval movements, and military expenditure. But the invisible threat is much closer to home. It is the steady, daily erosion of our shared sanity, our collective capacity for patience, and our ability to look at our fellow citizens with basic human dignity. We cannot easily force foreign actors to stop trying to influence us, and we cannot reshape the global attention economy overnight. The real defense must happen inside our own daily cognitive habits. We have to build our own psychological immunity. Think about how you feel during your daily routine. The next time you are scrolling through your feed and you feel that sudden, sharp spike of political rage, moral disgust, or intense anxiety, you must learn to pause. Recognize that feeling for what it truly is. It is not just your natural reaction to a news story. In some cases, that emotional reaction may not be entirely accidental. Someone, somewhere, may have designed that specific piece of content to drain your cognitive load, bypass your logical mind, and pull you into a state of panic. Have you felt this specific anger spike recently while looking at your phone? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Surviving this era requires a new kind of mental literacy. It requires the self-discipline to ration your mental energy, to actively seek out nuance over simple labels, and to regularly disconnect from the digital noise to protect your peace of mind. If this analysis changed the way you look at your screen, the media, and global strategy, consider sharing it and subscribing for more deep psychological and geopolitical documentaries. We must learn to protect our minds from the automated systems that profit from our internal divisions. Because if we lose the ability to think independently, to respect objective facts, and to communicate across our differences, we lose the war for our sanity before a single physical shot is ever fired. The next major global conflict will not be decided by who possesses the most sophisticated missiles. It will be decided by who managed to protect their mind from the algorithm.